Alexandra Garland had always believed that true strength resided in spreadsheets and profit margins, until she witnessed a father dive across a playground to shield his little girl from a falling tree branch. That single moment changed everything she thought she knew about power. Alexandra smoothed her Armani blazer as she claimed a bench at Maple Street Park. She needed fresh air after 12 consecutive hours negotiating a multi-million-dollar merger. At 32, she was the youngest CEO in her industry, having transformed her father's struggling investment firm into Garland Enterprises, a financial powerhouse managing billions in assets. Her assistant had begged her to take a break. "The emails will still be there tomorrow, Miss Garland." So here she was, reluctantly disconnecting for an hour, her laptop firmly shut inside her designer tote. The early autumn afternoon was surprisingly pleasant, golden sunlight filtering through trees beginning to hint at fall colors. Children darted across the playground equipment while parents supervised from benches or scrolled through phones. Alexandra felt oddly out of place without a child of her own to watch, but the momentary solitude was refreshing. That's when she noticed him, a man in his early 30s with a little girl about 5 years old. Unlike the other adults glued to their devices, he was fully engaged, pretending to be a monster while his daughter shrieked with delight. His jeans were worn at the knees, work boots scuffed, and his flannel shirt had seen better days. But his smile, that smile, transformed his entire face. "Daddy, higher?" the little girl demanded as he pushed her on the swing. "Any higher and you'll touch the clouds, Lily." He laughed, his voice deep and warm. Alexandra caught herself smiling. There was something compelling about him, not just his physical appearance, though that was certainly noteworthy with his strong jawline and kind eyes, but the complete devotion he showed his daughter. A sudden crack split the air. Alexandra glanced up to see a large branch separating from an old oak tree directly above the swings. Without hesitation, the man lunged forward, sweeping his daughter off the swing and curling his body protectively around her as the branch crashed down, barely missing them both. Alexandra was on her feet before she realized she had moved. The playground fell silent for a heartbeat before erupting in concerned voices. The father remained hunched over his daughter, murmuring reassurances though his own shoulders trembled slightly. "Are you both okay?" Alexandra asked, reaching them before anyone else. The man looked up, his intense blue eyes meeting hers. "We're fine, right, Lilybug?" The little girl nodded bravely, though tears glistened in her eyes. "The tree tried to get me, Daddy." "I'd never let that happen," he replied, brushing leaves from her hair. Alexandra watched as he carefully inspected his daughter for injuries, his large hands incredibly gentle. Something tugged at her heart, something unfamiliar and unexpected. "I'm Alexandra Garland," she said, extending her hand. "That was incredibly quick thinking." He stood, keeping one arm around his daughter while shaking Alexandra's hand. His palm was calloused against her smooth skin. "Vincent Hayes," he replied. "And this is my daughter, Lily. Thank you for checking on us." A park maintenance worker hurried over, apologizing profusely about the dead branch. "We've been meaning to trim that tree." Vincent nodded but seemed distracted, reaching into his pocket for his phone, which now displayed a spiderweb of cracks across the screen. He winced. "Broken the dive, I guess," he muttered. "Daddy saved me," Lily announced proudly to Alexandra, apparently recovered from her fright. "He always saves me, that's his job," Alexandra smiled. "He did a wonderful job." Vincent ruffled his daughter's hair. "It's getting late, Lilybug. We should head home so I can make dinner before my shift." "But you promised 20 minutes more," Lily protested. Alexandra watched the subtle shift in Vincent's expression, the momentary calculation, the slight tightening around his eyes that spoke of someone constantly weighing obligations and time. 10 more minutes, he negotiated with a wink that made the little girl beam. "Would you like to sit?" Alexandra found herself asking, gesturing to the bench. "While she plays," Vincent hesitated, then nodded. Thanks. Might be good to take a breath. They settled on the bench, watching as Lily cautiously returned to playing, deliberately avoiding the area beneath the tree. So, what brings a woman in Laubautens to a neighborhood park on a Wednesday afternoon? Vincent asked with a hint of amusement. Alexandra glanced down at her red-soled heels, feeling suddenly conspicuous. Doctor's orders. Apparently, 14-hour workdays aren't sustainable. Ah, workaholic. Dedicated professional, she corrected with a small smile. My mistake. Vincent's eyes crinkled when he smiled. What profession keeps you so dedicated? I run Garland Enterprises, financial management and investment. Vincent's eyebrows rose slightly. The Garland Enterprises. The one with the building downtown that looks like it's made of gold? It's actually just glass with a specialized coating that reflects the sunset, Alexandra replied, then caught herself. I sound like a brochure, don't I? Vincent laughed, a rich sound that seemed to vibrate through the air between them. A very informative one. There was something disarming about him, Alexandra thought. In her world of calculated power moves and strategic networking, his straightforward manner was refreshing. What about you? She asked. When you're not heroically saving your daughter from falling branches. I'm a contractor, mainly residential renovations, he answered. And I bartend 3 nights a week at the Edison downtown. Alexandra nodded, understanding the reason for the 2 jobs. Raising a child alone in the city wasn't cheap. Your daughter is lovely. How old is she? 5 going on 15, Vincent said with obvious pride. Smart as a whip and knows it. Her kindergarten teacher says she's reading at a 2nd grade level already. Daddy. Lily called from the monkey bars. Watch this trick. Vincent's attention immediately shifted, his entire focus on his daughter as she demonstrated an elaborate way of swinging from one bar to another. That's amazing, Lily. Be careful with that last part, okay? Alexandra observed the interaction, struck by the bond between father and daughter. There was something so genuine about their connection, something that made her think about her own workaholic father who had shown his love through providing rather than presence. Her mother. Alexandra asked before she could stop herself. Vincent's expression dimmed slightly. Decided parenting wasn't for her when Lily was 2, signed away her rights and moved to California with her yoga instructor. I'm sorry, Alexandra said, genuinely meaning it. Vincent shrugged. Don't be. Lily and I make a pretty good team. He checked his watch. Speaking of which, we really should get going. I promised mac and cheese before my shift, and the babysitter comes at 6. As they stood, Alexandra felt an unexpected reluctance to end their conversation. It was nice meeting you both, she said, suddenly aware of how formal she sounded. Vincent smiled that warm smile again. You too, Alexandra. Maybe we'll see you around the park sometime? Maybe, she replied, though her schedule rarely allowed for park visits. Bye, pretty lady. Lily called, waving energetically as Vincent took her hand. Alexandra watched them walk away, the little girl skipping beside her father, chattering animatedly while he listened with complete attention. She stood there long after they'd disappeared from view, feeling as though something significant had just happened, though she couldn't quite name what it was. Back in her penthouse that evening, Alexandra found herself distracted during a conference call with Tokyo. Her thoughts kept drifting to Vincent Hayes, and his daughter to the way he'd moved without hesitation to protect his child, to the genuine warmth in his interactions, to the slight crease between his eyebrows when he'd mentioned working 2 jobs. On impulse, after ending the call, she opened her laptop and searched for Vincent Hayes Contractor, along with their city name. A simple website appeared, Hayes Home Renovation. The site was basic, but showed impressive before and after photos of kitchens, bathrooms, and living spaces transformed with obvious skill and attention to detail. The testimonials section was filled with glowing reviews about Vincent's craftsmanship, reliability, and fair pricing. Alexandra found herself clicking through each project, noting the careful workmanship. She'd recently purchased a Victorian townhouse as an investment property that needed significant renovation before it could be sold or rented. She'd been meaning to hire someone. Before she could second-guess herself, Alexandra clicked the contact button and began typing an email inquiring about Vincent's availability for a consultation. She told herself it was simply good business supporting a local contractor with proven skills. It had nothing to do with the way his blue eyes had crinkled when he smiled, or how something in her chest had tightened when she watched him with his daughter. Nothing at all. Vincent Hayes stared at the email on his cracked phone screen, reading it for the third time to make sure he wasn't imagining things. The message had arrived late last night, but he'd been too exhausted after his bartending shift to check anything beyond Lily's babysitter's text confirming all had gone well. Alexandra Garland, he murmured to himself as he sipped his morning coffee. The woman from the park, the impossibly polished, clearly wealthy CEO, wanted to hire him for a renovation project. "Daddy, I can't find my purple socks," Lily called from her bedroom. "Check the second drawer, honey," he called back, setting down his phone to pour milk into Lily's cereal bowl. Their morning routine was a carefully choreographed dance of getting Lily fed, dressed, and prepared for school while also organizing his own work schedule and ensuring all her homework and supplies were packed. Their apartment was small, just 2 bedrooms in a neighborhood that was neither the worst nor the best the city had to offer. The rent consumed nearly half his monthly income, but the school district was good and the building secure. Vincent had converted half the living room into his office, where blueprints and material samples often competed for space with Lily's art projects and toys. After dropping Lily at school, Vincent sat in his truck and composed a response to Alexandra, offering to meet her at the property she mentioned. He couldn't deny the project would be a significant opportunity. A complete Victorian townhouse renovation would not only provide steady income for months, but also serve as an excellent portfolio piece. The address she'd provided was in the historic district, an area of the city where homes regularly sold for 7 figures. Vincent whistled low as he parked his worn pickup truck in front of an elegant 3-story brick Victorian with ornate woodwork and large bay windows. Though showing signs of neglect, the house's bones were magnificent. He was examining the detailed corbels beneath the roofline when a sleek black Mercedes pulled up. Alexandra Garland stepped out looking even more striking than he remembered, dressed in a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than 3 months of his rent. "Mr. Hayes," she greeted him, extending her hand. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." Vincent shook her hand, acutely aware of his work jeans and flannel shirt beside her corporate polish. "Vincent, please, and it's no problem at all. This is quite a property you've acquired." Something flickered across her face, surprise, perhaps, that a contractor would recognize the architectural value of the building. "It has potential," she agreed. "I purchased it as an investment, but it needs significant updating before it can go on the market." She unlocked the front door, and they stepped into a spacious foyer with a grand staircase and original hardwood floors buried beneath years of neglect and outdated carpet. The house smelled of dust and abandonment, but Vincent immediately saw past the surface issues to the extraordinary craftsmanship beneath. "These floors can be restored," he said, kneeling to peel back a corner of carpet. "Quarter sawn oak, probably from the original construction. You don't find materials like this anymore." Alexandra watched him with interest as he moved through the house, pointing out hidden features and structural elements worth preserving while also noting areas that would require extensive updating or repair. His knowledge seemed to surprise her. "You really know your stuff," she commented as they examined the kitchen with its peeling linoleum and 1970s cabinetry. Vincent shrugged. "I should hope so. I studied architectural preservation before life took a different turn." "Oh," her perfect eyebrows arched in question. I was halfway through my master's program when Lily's mother got pregnant, he explained, running his hand along a wall to check for moisture issues. Made more sense to switch to contracting steady work, better income for a family. Alexandra nodded, something soft entering her expression. That was admirable. Vincent felt a flicker of discomfort. He didn't want her pity. It was practical, and I love what I do, taking something broken and making it functional and beautiful again. They continued through the house, discussing possibilities for each space. Vincent took measurements and notes, occasionally sketching quick ideas that made Alexandra's eyes light up with interest. The primary bathroom could extend into this unused closet space, he suggested, drawing a rough layout. Give you room for a luxury shower and soaking tub without compromising the original architectural details. That's brilliant, she said, leaning close enough that he caught the subtle scent of her perfume, something expensive and understated that made him think of rain-washed gardens. You see possibilities I wouldn't have considered. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the dilapidated house around them seemed to fade away. Vincent felt a pull toward this woman who existed in a world so different from his own, yet who looked at him now with genuine respect for his expertise. He cleared his throat. I should be able to get you a detailed proposal by early next week. Do you have a specific budget in mind? Alexandra straightened back to business. Quality is my primary concern. This property deserves to be restored properly, not flipped with cheap materials. I couldn't agree more, Vincent said, relieved she wasn't looking for a quick, low-cost renovation. Though I should warn you that proper restoration of a property like this won't be inexpensive. I'm prepared for that, she replied with the confidence of someone who had never had to check a bank balance before making a purchase. As they descended the stairs back to the foyer, Vincent noticed Alexandra glancing at her watch. I've kept you too long, he said. You probably have meetings to get back to. Actually, she said, sounding almost hesitant, I was checking the time because I need to find a decent lunch place nearby. Would you like to join me to discuss the project further? Vincent was caught off guard by the invitation. He'd assumed she would simply wait for his proposal, making decisions from behind her executive desk. The idea of sharing a meal with Alexandra Garland, continuing their conversation, was unexpectedly appealing. I'd like that, he said. There's a good deli around the corner. Nothing fancy, but the food is excellent. Alexandra smiled, and Vincent was struck again by how it transformed her face from merely beautiful to genuinely radiant. Perfect. Lead the way. At the deli, Vincent was surprised by how easily conversation flowed. Alexandra was intelligent and perceptive, asking thoughtful questions about architectural preservation and listening with genuine interest to his explanations of construction techniques. She spoke passionately about her own work, though she downplayed her considerable success. My father started the company, she explained as she dipped her spoon into a bowl of soup. I just happened to be good with numbers and stubborn enough not to take no for an answer. I'm guessing there's a lot more to it than that, Vincent said. Running a company like yours takes more than stubbornness. Alexandra's smile turned slightly wistful. It takes sacrificing pretty much everything else. My father taught me that lesson well. Must be tough to find balance, Vincent commented, thinking of his own constant juggling act between work and parenthood. Balance is a luxury I haven't quite figured out how to afford, Alexandra admitted. Though I'm trying. Hence the park visit yesterday, my first actual break-in. Well, longer than I care to admit. And you got to witness a dramatic rescue scene. Pretty good entertainment value for a break. Alexandra's expression grew serious. What you did, that instinctive protection, it was remarkable. Vincent shook his head. Any parent would have done the same. I'm not so sure about that, she said quietly. My father would have been calculating the insurance payout before I hit the ground. There was no self-pity in her voice, just a matter-of-fact observation that made Vincent's heart ache a little. Well, I think you turned out pretty impressive despite that. A slight blush touched her cheeks, surprising Vincent. This confident CEO actually appeared flustered by the simple compliment. "Tell me about Lily," Alexandra said, clearly changing the subject. "She seems like a wonderful child." Vincent couldn't help the smile that spread across his face. "She's everything. Smart, funny, stubborn as all get out, loves dinosaurs and ballet with equal passion, asks questions that would stump a philosophy professor. She clearly adores you. The feeling is mutual. Though raising her alone isn't always easy." Vincent checked his watch. "Speaking of which, I should get going. I have another job to check on before school pickup." They walked back to their vehicles, and Vincent promised to email his proposal within a few days. "Thank you for lunch," Alexandra said as they prepared to part ways, "and for seeing the potential in this old house." "Thank you for the opportunity," Vincent replied. "It's the kind of project most contractors dream about." As he drove away, he glanced in his rearview mirror and saw Alexandra still standing beside her Mercedes, watching his truck depart. Something warm settled in his chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced in a very long time. Later that evening, while Lily colored at the kitchen table and Vincent prepared dinner, his phone chimed with a new email. Alexandra had sent over additional photos of the house, along with some specific ideas for the renovation. The message was professional but ended with a personal note. "I enjoyed our conversation today. Your passion for your work is evident and refreshing. Looking forward to your proposal." Vincent smiled at his phone, then returned to chopping vegetables for the stir-fry, humming softly to himself. "Why are you so happy, Daddy?" Lily asked, looking up from her coloring book. "I might have a really great new project coming up, Lilybug. One that could mean good things for us. Like a vacation to Disney World," Lily asked hopefully. Vincent laughed. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but maybe some stability, a little less rushing around." "I like when you're not rushing," Lily said thoughtfully. "You smile more." Out of the mouths of babes, Vincent thought, realizing how perceptive his daughter truly was. He had been rushing for so long between jobs, responsibilities, and the constant pressure of single parenthood that slowing down felt almost foreign. But today, discussing the renovation with Alexandra, he had felt that old spark of genuine enthusiasm for his craft. And something else too, a different kind of spark when their eyes met, or when she smiled in that understated way that suggested she didn't do it often enough. Vincent shook his head. He was being ridiculous. Alexandra Garland was a potential client, a wealthy, powerful businesswoman who lived in a world completely separate from his own. Whatever connection he imagined was likely just professional respect on her part. Still, as he helped Lily with her bath later and tucked her into bed with a story, Vincent found his thoughts drifting back to Alexandra, to her intelligent eyes, her unexpected moments of vulnerability, and the way she had listened to him as though what he had to say truly mattered. For the first time in years, Vincent Hayes went to bed thinking about a woman who wasn't his daughter. It was both terrifying and exhilarating. Alexandra stared at the collection of paint swatches and material samples spread across her desk, her normal mountain of paperwork pushed aside. Vincent's renovation proposal had arrived that morning, comprehensive, thoughtful, and showing remarkable attention to detail. He'd included digital renderings of how each room could look when completed, preserving the historic character while introducing modern functionality. The budget was substantial but fair for the quality of work he proposed. Alexandra had already decided to accept it, yet she found herself lingering over the materials he'd suggested, imagining the transformed spaces. Her intercom buzzed. "Miss Garland, your 3 o'clock is here." Alexandra quickly gathered the renovation materials into a folder. "Send them in, please." As she conducted her meeting, a routine quarterly review with investors, Alexandra maintained her usual razor-sharp focus. Yet afterward, she found herself returning to the renovation plans with unusual eagerness. She called Vincent that evening, pleased when he answered on the second ring. Alexandra, he said, her name sounding different in his deep voice. I was hoping to hear from you. Your proposal is excellent, she told him, skipping pleasantries. I'd like to move forward as soon as possible. That's great news, Vincent replied, genuine enthusiasm in his tone. I can start pulling permits next week. There's just a few details we should go over in person if you have time. Of course. Would tomorrow work? Perhaps at the property around noon. Actually, Vincent said, hesitation entering his voice, I promised Lily I'd take her to the Children's Museum tomorrow. It's been on the calendar for weeks, and I say no more, Alexandra interrupted, ignoring the slight disappointment she felt. Family comes first. We can reschedule. There was a pause before Vincent said, You could join us if you'd like. We could discuss the project over lunch at the museum cafe, and then I'm free in the afternoon while Lily has her art class there. Alexandra blinked in surprise. Being invited to a family outing was not something that happened in her world of business lunches and networking events. I wouldn't want to intrude on your time with Lily, she said carefully. It's not an intrusion if it's an invitation, Vincent replied. Unless museums and energetic 5-year-olds aren't your thing, which would be completely understandable. Alexandra found herself smiling. Actually, I haven't been to the Children's Museum since the firm sponsored their new wing last year. I'd love to see it being used for its intended purpose instead of just at a gala. Great, Vincent said, sounding genuinely pleased. We'll meet you there around 11. The dinosaur exhibit opens then, and Lily would never forgive me if we missed the first showing. After ending the call, Alexandra sat back in her chair, wondering what had possessed her to accept the invitation. She had turned down dinner with the mayor just last week, citing work commitments. Yet here she was, rearranging her Saturday schedule to visit a children's museum with a contractor and his daughter. Her assistant would have a heart attack if she knew. The next morning, Alexandra found herself standing outside the Children's Museum, feeling oddly nervous. She'd chosen casual clothes, designer jeans, and a soft cashmere sweater, but still felt overdressed compared to the parents arriving with children in tow. Alexandra, Lily's voice rang out across the plaza. The little girl was racing toward her, Vincent following at a more measured pace. Lily wore a bright purple coat and light-up sneakers, her curly hair contained in 2 puffy pigtails. You came, Lily exclaimed, stopping just short of crashing into Alexandra's legs. Daddy said you might be too busy because you're a boss lady, but I told him boss ladies need fun too. Alexandra laughed, charmed by the child's enthusiasm. You're absolutely right. Everyone needs fun sometimes. Vincent reached them, giving Alexandra a warm smile that made her stomach do an unexpected flip. Thanks for joining us. Fair warning, Lily has the day all planned out minute by minute. First dinosaurs, then space, then lunch, then the water table, then my art class, Lily recited promptly. And Daddy said we can talk about the pretty house during lunch. Sounds like an excellent plan, Alexandra said, genuinely meaning it. What followed was unlike any day Alexandra had experienced in years. Lily's excitement was infectious as she led them through exhibits, explaining dinosaur facts with the authority only a 5-year-old can muster. Vincent stayed close, occasionally adding scientific corrections, but mostly watching his daughter with obvious pride and joy. Alexandra found herself fully engaged, asking Lily questions and listening to her elaborate answers. The child was remarkably articulate and confident, clearly used to being taken seriously by her father. In the space exhibit, Vincent lifted Lily onto his shoulders so she could reach an interactive display about gravity. See how it pulls differently depending on which planet you're on. He explained. I'd weigh less on Mars, Lily informed Alexandra solemnly, but my muscles would get weak without Earth's gravity. That's very true, Alexandra replied. Astronauts have to exercise every day in space to keep their muscles strong. Lily's eyes widened. You know about astronauts. A little, Alexandra admitted. My company helps fund some aerospace research. That's so cool, Lily declared, making Alexandra feel unexpectedly proud. Throughout the morning, Alexandra found herself watching Vincent as much as the exhibits. He was patient, enthusiastic, and completely present with his daughter. There were no furtive glances at phones or watches, just full engagement with Lily's experience. At lunch, while Lily carefully colored the children's menu, they discussed the renovation project. Vincent had brought a tablet with additional sketches and ideas. I've been thinking about the third floor layout, he said, pulling up a floor plan. If we convert this storage space into a small office nook, it adds value without changing the historic footprint. Alexandra leaned closer to see the screen, her shoulder brushing against his. She caught a hint of his scent: sawdust, coffee, and something clean and masculine. That's clever, she said, attempting to focus on the plans rather than their proximity. The work-from-home trend makes office space essential for resale value. Their conversation flowed easily between renovation details and more personal topics. Alexandra found herself describing her childhood in her father's enormous, empty house, while Vincent shared stories about learning construction skills from his grandfather. He could look at a building and tell you exactly how it was constructed, down to the nail pattern, Vincent said fondly. I wanted to be just like him. I think he'd be proud of what you've become, Alexandra said softly. Vincent's eyes met hers, and something unspoken passed between them, a mutual recognition, perhaps, of the person behind the professional facade. The moment was broken when Lily announced she had finished her children's meal and was ready for the water table exhibit. Alexandra checked her watch, surprised to find that nearly 2 hours had passed. I should probably get going, she said. I have some work to finish before Monday. Nuu. Lily protested. You have to see the water table. It's the best part, Vincent gave Alexandra an apologetic smile. No pressure, I know you're busy. Alexandra looked at Lily's hopeful face, then back at Vincent. Her emails would still be there in an hour. Actually, I'd love to see the water table. Lily's resulting cheer drew smiles from nearby parents. The water exhibit was indeed impressive, an elaborate system of locks, dams, and channels that demonstrated principles of hydraulics, while allowing children to splash to their heart's content. Alexandra found herself laughing as Lily enthusiastically explained how to create the biggest possible splash, her earlier reserve completely forgotten. When it was time for Lily's art class, Vincent walked Alexandra to the museum entrance. Thank you for today, she said. I haven't had that much fun in. I honestly can't remember. We enjoyed having you, Vincent replied. Especially Lily, she's already asking when you can come to our house to see her rock collection. Alexandra smiled, touched by the child's acceptance. She's extraordinary, Vincent. You're doing an amazing job with her. I'm trying, he said, a hint of vulnerability showing through. Some days I worry it's not enough, that she needs more than I can give her on my own. From what I've seen, you're giving her exactly what she needs most: your time and attention. Alexandra hesitated, then added, My father provided everything money could buy, but he was never present like you are with Lily. Trust me, you've got your priorities right. Vincent's expression softened. That means a lot, especially from someone as accomplished as you. They stood for a moment in comfortable silence before Alexandra spoke again. About the renovation, I'd like to go ahead with everything in your proposal. No need for any adjustments or cost cutting. Are you sure? It's a significant investment. I'm sure, she said firmly. Quality work deserves fair compensation. I'll have the contracts sent over Monday, and we can schedule a start date once they're signed. As Alexandra drove home, she reflected on the unexpected turn her weekend had taken. Instead of reviewing quarterly projections and answering emails, she'd spent the day learning about dinosaurs and space travel from an enthusiastic 5-year-old. More surprisingly, she'd enjoyed every minute of it. Her thoughts kept returning to Vincent, to his patience with Lily, his passion when discussing the renovation, the warmth in his eyes when he looked at her. Alexandra couldn't remember the last time a man had looked at her as a person rather than as a potential business connection or trophy. When her phone rang that evening, Alexandra smiled, seeing Vincent's name on the screen. "I wanted to apologize for Lily essentially hijacking your Saturday," he said when she answered. "No apology necessary. I meant what I said. I had a wonderful time." "In that case," Vincent said, a hint of hesitation in his voice, "I wonder if you might be interested in dinner sometime, just the two of us, not to discuss the renovation." Alexandra's heart beat a little faster. "Are you asking me on a date, Vincent Hayes?" "I am," he replied, his voice steadier now. "Though I realize it might not be the best idea professionally. I've never been one to let conventional wisdom dictate my choices," Alexandra said, surprising herself with her boldness. "I'd love to have dinner with you." The project began the following week, with Vincent and his small crew starting the necessary demolition work. Alexandra found reasons to visit the site frequently, ostensibly to check on progress, but primarily to see Vincent in his element, confident and skilled, directing his team with quiet authority. Their dinner date had been surprisingly low-key, a neighborhood Italian restaurant Vincent favored, with excellent food and an unpretentious atmosphere. Alexandra had found it refreshing after years of business meals at sterile, upscale establishments where the focus was on being seen rather than enjoying the experience. They'd talked for hours, discovering shared interests in architecture, historical preservation, and surprisingly, fantasy novels. Vincent had walked her to her car afterward, kissing her cheek in a gesture that was both respectful and promising. 3 weeks into the renovation, Alexandra arrived at the townhouse to find Vincent alone, carefully removing ornate crown molding that needed repair. "The crew's gone already?" she asked, setting down the coffee she'd brought him. "Half day," he explained, climbing down from his ladder. "Thanks for this," he added, accepting the coffee gratefully. "How's it coming along?" Alexandra moved deeper into the room, admiring the progress. The spaces were taking shape, with original details emerging from beneath years of unfortunate updates. "On schedule so far," Vincent said, wiping dust from his hands. "Though we discovered some water damage in the master bathroom that might slow us down a bit." Alexandra nodded, trusting his judgment. She'd come to appreciate not just his craftsmanship, but his problem-solving approach and transparent communication, rare qualities in the contractors she'd dealt with previously. "I wanted to show you something," Vincent said, leading her to what would become the library. He'd uncovered a hidden alcove during demolition, a small reading nook tucked behind what had been a false wall. "I think it was part of the original design, then covered up during some misguided renovation in the 50s. Alexandra stepped into the space, enchanted by the built-in seating beneath a small stained glass window that cast colorful patterns across the floor. "It's magical," she breathed. "Like something from a children's story." "That's exactly what Lily said when I showed her the photos," Vincent replied with a smile. "Great minds think alike." Alexandra turned to face him, suddenly aware of how close they were standing in the small space. "How is Lily?" "Missing her museum buddy," Vincent said softly. "She asks about you almost daily." "I miss her too," Alexandra admitted. "And her father." Vincent's eyes darkened slightly. "I've been thinking about you constantly," he said, his voice low, "probably more than is professional." "I think we moved past strictly professional when I spent a Saturday chasing your daughter around a museum," Alexandra replied, her heart racing. Vincent stepped closer, his hand gently touching her cheek. "May I kiss you, Alexandra?" In answer, she closed the distance between them, her lips meeting his in a kiss that started tentatively but quickly deepened. Vincent's arms encircled her waist, drawing her against him as Alexandra's hands moved to his shoulders, feeling the strength beneath his work shirt. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Vincent rested his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that since I saw you walk into the park that first day," he confessed. Even in my impractical heels, Alexandra teased. Especially in those heels, he replied with a grin. Though I like you just as much in the sneakers you wore to the museum, Alexandra laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. This is complicated, isn't it? I'm technically your employer. Life is complicated, Vincent said simply, but some complications are worth navigating. Their relationship developed alongside the renovation, both projects progressing with careful attention and growing investment. Alexandra found herself scheduling her work around opportunities to see Vincent, whether at the townhouse or for dinner after Lily's bedtime. Vincent introduced Alexandra to Lily officially as someone special to Daddy, a designation the child seemed to approve of wholeheartedly. Does this mean you'll come to my ballet recital? Lily had asked pragmatically. It's dinosaur-themed. I'm a triceratops. I wouldn't miss it for anything, Alexandra had promised, meaning it completely. The first time Vincent invited Alexandra to his apartment for dinner with him and Lily, she had been unexpectedly nervous. His home was modest compared to her penthouse, but it was warm and lived in, filled with Lily's artwork, well-worn furniture, and shelves overflowing with books. Lily had proudly shown Alexandra her bedroom with its dinosaur bedspread and ballet trophies, then insisted on helping her father prepare dinner. Alexandra had watched them work together in the kitchen, Lily standing on a step stool to reach the counter, Vincent guiding her hands as she carefully tore lettuce for the salad and felt something shift inside her. This was what a real home felt like. As summer arrived, the renovation neared completion. The Victorian townhouse had been transformed, its historic character preserved while modern amenities had been seamlessly integrated. Alexandra had originally intended to sell the property for a profit, but increasingly, she found herself imagining living there perhaps not alone. She and Vincent had fallen into an easy rhythm, seeing each other several times a week. Alexandra had even adjusted her notoriously packed schedule to be available for Lily's recitals and school events. The child had blossomed under her attention, delighting in teaching Alexandra about her latest interests and including her in family activities. One evening in late June, Alexandra invited Vincent to her penthouse for dinner. They stood on her balcony afterward, overlooking the city lights while sharing a bottle of wine. The townhouse is nearly finished, Alexandra said, leaning against the railing. You've created something truly extraordinary there. Vincent stood behind her, his arms wrapped around her waist. We created it together. Your vision, my execution. Alexandra turned in his embrace to face him. I've been thinking, I'm not sure I want to sell it anymore. Oh. Vincent raised an eyebrow. Decided to become a landlord instead. Actually, Alexandra said, taking a deep breath, I was thinking I might want to live there myself. Vincent studied her face. That's a change of plans. What brought this on? Working on this project with you has changed how I see things, she explained. I've spent my entire adult life focused on building wealth, but I've never created a real home. That townhouse feels like it could be one with the right people in it. Vincent's expression softened. Alexandra, are you asking what I think you're asking? I know it's fast, she said quickly. We've only been together a few months, but I've never been more certain about anyone in my life. I love you, Vincent, and I love Lily. I love the family you two have created, and I want to be part of it if you'll have me. Vincent was quiet for a long moment, his eyes never leaving hers. You know, Lily and I are a package deal, he said finally. She has to come first in my life always. I wouldn't have it any other way, Alexandra replied sincerely. She's an amazing child, and I love her too. Our worlds are very different, Vincent continued. I'll never be a CEO or move in the circles you do. I don't care about any of that, Alexandra said firmly. The circles I move in are full of people who work themselves to death for possessions they don't have time to enjoy. You've shown me there's another way to live with purpose and presence and genuine connection. That's what I want. Vincent took her hands in his. I love you, Alexandra. You've brought something to our lives I never expected to find again: hope, joy, partnership. But living together is a big step, especially for Lily. We can take it as slowly as you need, Alexandra assured him. I just wanted you to know where my heart is. Vincent smiled, pulling her closer. My heart is with you, he said softly. It has been since I watched you kneel down to check if Lily was okay after that branch fell, designer suit and all. He kissed her then, a kiss full of promise and future possibilities. When they separated, Vincent had a thoughtful expression. What if we did a test run? He suggested. The townhouse has that garden apartment we renovated in the basement private entrance, separate but connected. I could rent my apartment to my cousin, who's been looking for a place, and Lily and I could move into the garden apartment. You'd take the main house. We'd be close but still have our own spaces while we figure out how all this works with a 5-year-old in the mix. Alexandra's face lit up. That's brilliant. Lily would have the stability of having you all to herself while still getting used to me being around more. And we'd be creating our own space together, at a pace that works for everyone. Plus, Vincent added with a grin, I'd be on hand for any maintenance issues that arise in that old house. Historical buildings always have surprises up their sleeves. By late summer, the arrangement was in place. The townhouse had been fully renovated, with the garden apartment configured for Vincent and Lily, while Alexandra occupied the main house. The transition had been smoother than any of them expected, with Lily especially thrilled by the garden that connected both living spaces. It's like we have 2 houses, she'd exclaimed during the move-in. One for sleeping and one for playing with Alexandra. They settled into a new routine breakfast, often shared in Alexandra's kitchen. Then Vincent heading off to his current renovation projects, while Lily went to day camp and Alexandra to her office. Evenings and weekends were family time, with all 3 exploring the city, working in the garden, or simply enjoying quiet evenings at home. Alexandra had been surprised by how naturally she adapted to having a child in her life. Lily's questions and observations often provided perspective that years of business school couldn't teach. The little girl approached the world with wonder and curiosity that Alexandra found herself emulating. Vincent watched the relationship develop between the 2 most important people in his life, with a mixture of joy and occasional amazement. Alexandra, who had once confessed to being terrified of children, now sat patiently helping Lily with her reading or teaching her about constellations visible from their garden. One Saturday morning in early fall, almost a year after their first meeting in the park, Vincent woke early and slipped out of the garden apartment while Lily still slept. He found Alexandra in the main kitchen, already dressed and making coffee. You're up early, she commented, passing him a steaming mug prepared exactly as he liked it. I wanted to catch you before you got busy, Vincent replied, taking the coffee gratefully. I have something to ask you. Alexandra leaned against the counter, her expression curious. That sounds serious. Vincent set down his mug and took her hands in his. This past year has been the happiest of my life, he began. Watching you become part of our family, seeing how you've embraced Lily and how she adores you, it's more than I ever dared hope for. Alexandra's eyes softened. You've given me a family, Vincent, something I never thought I'd have. That's the thing, Vincent said, his voice growing more serious. I want to make it official. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small box. This was my grandmother's. My grandfather worked extra shifts for months to buy it for her. He opened the box to reveal a vintage engagement ring not large or flashy by modern standards, but exquisitely crafted with a central diamond surrounded by sapphires. Alexandra Garland, Vincent said, his voice steady despite his racing heart, will you marry me? Will you officially become Lily's second parent and my partner for life? Tears filled Alexandra's eyes as she nodded. Yes, she whispered. Yes to all of it. Vincent slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that conveyed all the love and commitment he felt. They were so absorbed in the moment that neither noticed the small figure that appeared in the doorway until she spoke. Are you going to be my mom now?" Lily asked, her voice curious rather than upset. Alexandra and Vincent broke apart, turning toward the child. Vincent knelt down to Lily's level. "Alexandra and I are getting married. Lily Bug, she'll be your stepmother. Is that okay with you?" Lily considered this seriously, her brow furrowed in thought. Then she looked directly at Alexandra. "Will you still help me with my science projects and read me stories, even when you're officially my stepmom?" Alexandra joined Vincent on her knees before the child. "I will do those things and so much more, Lily. I love you and your dad very much, and nothing would make me happier than being part of your family forever." Lily nodded, apparently satisfied with this answer. "Good. Because I already told my teacher that you're going to be my new mom, and I don't want to have to tell her I was wrong." Vincent laughed, pulling both Lily and Alexandra into a hug. "When did you tell your teacher that?" "Last week," Lily said matter-of-factly. "I saw the ring in your sock drawer when I was helping you match socks. You're not very good at hiding things, Daddy." Alexandra laughed through her tears, holding tight to both Vincent and Lily. In that moment, surrounded by the love of this unexpected family, she knew she had found something far more valuable than all the success and wealth she had accumulated over the years. She had found home. They married the following spring in the garden of their townhouse, with Lily serving as both flower girl and best daughter. The ceremony was small but joyful, with Alexandra's closest colleagues meeting Vincent's friends and family for the first time. After the wedding, they officially combined their living arrangements, with the garden apartment converted to a home office for Alexandra, allowing her to work remotely more often. The company continued to thrive under her leadership, though she had made significant changes to her work schedule to prioritize family time. Vincent's renovation business expanded, his work on the townhouse having attracted attention from homeowners throughout the historic district. He hired additional staff, but maintained his hands-on approach, never wanting to lose the connection to craftsmanship that had drawn him to the work initially. As for Lily, she blossomed with 2 devoted parents supporting her. Now in 1st grade, she had developed a passion for architecture, like Daddy, and mathematics, like Mom. The term had come naturally over time, with Alexandra treasuring it as the greatest title she'd ever held. On the anniversary of their first meeting at the park, the family returned for a picnic. As Vincent spread a blanket beneath the oak tree now properly trimmed and safe, he reflected on how a single moment of instinctive action had changed the course of all their lives. "What are you thinking about?" Alexandra asked, sitting beside him while Lily ran toward the swings. "Just how lucky I am," Vincent replied, taking her hand. "That branch could have fallen anywhere in the park that day. Instead, it fell exactly where it needed to for us to meet." "I think we would have found each other anyway," Alexandra said, leaning against his shoulder. "Some things are just meant to be." They watched as Lily conquered the monkey bars, waving proudly at her achievements. In her, they both saw the future bright, hopeful, and full of possibilities. In each other, they had found unexpected completion, Vincent giving Alexandra the grounding and family connection she had always craved. Alexandra providing Vincent with partnership and security he had never thought possible. "I love you," Vincent said simply, his arm around her shoulders. "I love you too," Alexandra replied, her heart full. "Both of you, more than I ever knew was possible." The park bustled around them, families enjoying the spring day, children playing, life continuing its rhythm. But for Vincent and Alexandra, the world had fundamentally changed that day, a year ago transformed by an act of protection, a chance meeting, and the courage to recognize love when it appeared in the most unexpected place.